Today's guest, Lewisville, Texas City Manager, Claire Powell. And now, an awesome guy and the best boss ever, your host, Terry Sullivan.
I have to write it out for him because he's just a weirdo. Very good over there, buddy.
Thank you.
Hey, and I'm just amazed that you could read that far, too. That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
You look tired today. You had a long weekend.
I had a very long weekend.
Yeah, okay.
We drove back from Houston late
Yeah.
last night. So.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Yes, sir.
So good to have Claire. Claire Powell, she is, see, I did it. I said Powell, but it's
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
You can't spell, why do you spell it P-O-W-E-L-L?
Well, I can't help it. So my husband's a true Texan, and although our last name is spelled Powell, when I first met him, he said, well, how do you dry off? You dry off with a towel. And so he was like, we don't pronounce it Powell, it's Pal. You're P-A-L, Claire Powell.
And you guys have been married for how long?
It's been 7 years.
7 years, and he probably uses all that down-to-earth Texas realism. How do you pronounce towel?
That's
stuff.
exactly right.
So you're from upstate New York
I am.
originally.
Originally, I grew up there.
Yeah,
which is
been
not
here.
like New York City. I mean,
Yeah.
it was country land and cows and horses and apple orchards and things like that. So don't judge me too harshly.
Been here a long time, though.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, you and John just took a vacation, and you went to upstate New York, and that was kind of I followed it on Instagram and Facebook because it was very interesting. But you went hiking every day.
Yes.
That sounds like a lot of work to me, Claire. I don't know, listen, vacation to me is going and sitting.
At a beach, probably.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No. I was telling Terry earlier, but I was telling you earlier was that my husband starts working out months in advance before our vacations because I will run him so hard. He says that he needs to be in better shape, and I'm not in any better shape than he is, but I guess I deal with pain tolerance more, so I can just put up with it. But no, we basically planned a trip in the Adirondack Mountains. It was every evening we would go to a different brewery, and during the day from sunup to sundown, pretty much we were out in the wilderness hiking, and there was rain out there. We were in mud and pretty torrential conditions on some days, but it's fun, adventure.
Yeah, I know you shared a picture on social media. You guys were just wet. I mean, just drenched.
Head to toe.
And I'm thinking, no, not for me. For me, roughing it is like a hotel without room service. So I'm not into all that. But it looked like you had a blast.
We had a great time. It was great. We stayed in a nice hotel in the evenings, but and pretty much everyone there, by the time we would come back in for the day, they're all dressed in their cashmere sweaters and they're sitting around a fireplace and they're all toasting with wine and champagne. And my husband and I would come in with covered from head to toe in mud, and our gear is all over our back, and they're just looking at us like, you guys are aliens, but it's all right.
So when you were, you always liked hiking? Or?
My parents are outdoors people, so yeah, I grew up fishing and hiking and camping and all that type of stuff. So yeah.
John likes all that.
John did not grow up doing all that, but I guess I have some influence in him. He loves it now.
Well, he loves to cook.
He does love to cook.
He's a good one too.
He's a good cook. He's a great, especially over a stick burner. Yep.
Yeah. See, only women that are married to true barbecue men know what a stick burner is.
Right. Actually, it's so funny. I got him for Father's Day, I think it was, or maybe it was his birthday last year. He put a bunch of stuff on Amazon, and I'm not the best wife. Meaning, for buying stuff, I don't put a lot of effort. So I went onto Amazon and I just clicked buy. These things are going to get sent to him, and I'm going to be, the best wife ever because I've got him exactly what he wanted. And then the next moment I see him in the backyard about a week later, and he's got a flamethrower that he's literally lighting his barbecue pit with this giant flamethrower, and it's going like 3 feet, and I almost lose it. I'm like, what is going on? What is this thing? And he said, you bought this for me on Amazon. So then I get online because I'm going to shame my husband, and I post some post with a picture of him with his flamethrower about how dangerous this, and every man on Facebook attacked me, and my husband sat there all proud of himself that he was vindicated.
Well, see, the bottom line is you were a great wife.
I guess I got him exactly what he wanted.
Claire, you are an attorney.
Yes.
By trade.
Right.
And you were city attorney. Were you the city attorney for Lewisville?
Assistant. So I was the number 2.
Number 2. Okay. So then Donna Barron retired last year. Was it last year?
Yes, about almost a year ago.
Almost a year ago. You were hired as city manager of Lewisville, Texas, and a great city manager. You know, people talk about you all the time. They talk about you in the best ways.
Okay, good.
And I'll tell you what they say. More than anything else, when you mention Claire Powell's name, they say she really cares about us. From the police department to the fire department. I remember recently, a police officer that comes in here, we have a lot of police officers that come to the restaurant, but one of them said specifically, we love Claire because when she was first hired as a city manager, she wanted to meet with every department to see what our needs were. Is that who you are at the core?
Well, I think being a good human, I think it's just being a good human being, right? So I have a lot of responsibility. I have to make decisions, and especially with police and fire, those are life and death decisions, right? And they're related to funding and do they have the right training and all that type of stuff. And if I have to make those decisions every day, I can't make those decisions in an ivory tower where I don't come down and talk to folks. And I also am someone I learn by tactile, like I learn by asking questions and being and seeing things and feeling things. And to me, one of the most important things I ever did was before I became a city manager, and I did my first ride along with a patrol officer. And it changed my perspective almost immediately, because it wasn't necessarily what that police officer said. It was sitting in that front seat and knowing if something goes wrong tonight, I may not be coming home. Mm-hmm. And just feeling it myself, that every day they go on the street and their wives and children, husbands are at home and don't know, is today going to be the day that something goes wrong? Mm-hmm. It was that perspective immediately. And so when I got that, I was like, I need to seek those experiences out and regularly, mm-hmm. because otherwise you make decisions academically, but you also have to make decisions on a visceral, emotional level too, because they're my family, right?
Yeah,
I want to take care of them.
Mm-hmm. How has your life changed as a city manager? Because you were already working for the city, working with the city. How has your life changed as a city manager?
I think the two things are you have greater ownership and greater influence, mm-hmm. which is really cool in some ways. Some ways it's harder. So the influence is, I can listen to folks and figure out what are the needs in the community. And obviously council has to make decisions on funding and they have to make decisions on policy, but I have a lot greater influence than I had before to get things done. And then the other one is ownership. So I own this job. There is no other job that I've experienced in local government that is at this level of ownership. And part of it's because I live in this community and I work in this community and I play in this community. And so for me, I hear police sirens down the street from my house. Well, I can look up online exactly, I'm on all the time. I walk down the street and I see high grass and weeds. Well, that's my responsibility, right? And so mm-hmm. I'm on all the time. Mm-hmm. So part of that is, before I became city manager and even applied for the job, I talked to my husband and my kids, and I was like, if I take this job, I'm married to the job. Mm-hmm. Like there is no halfway on this, and I needed them to have buy-in before I did it, because it's a decision for our family. And
that's not so good for you, but for the community, for us, for business owners and just citizens, to have someone managing our city who owns it, who believes that you're on call 24/7. It helps you sleep better at night.
Well, I'm there for sure, and we have great. I mean, part of my responsibility is making sure we hire and keep and the best, right? So it's not just me. We have amazing men and women that work in this organization that are working around the clock for this community. But absolutely, at the end of the day, it's my responsibility. If anything goes wrong out in the street, it's my responsibility. If it's where there's high grass and weeds, and there have been those situations lately, we can talk more about that maybe later.
We're not talking about my high grass and weed.
No,
Come
no,
on.
we've had some struggles this last year with regard to staffing levels, and all government has. And,
Yes.
So with that, it's still my fault or my ownership. I own that problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you have a city council meeting tonight.
Yes.
How do you prepare for those?
It is a lot longer than you would think.
I mean, some of them are 2 or 3 hours, right, or 4 hours.
Well, and we do city council meetings. We are one of the shortest, fastest city council meetings, but it's because we do so much work on the front end. So I would say, like, let's say, for example, there's an agreement that needs to get on to a council meeting. Well, it may start 2 months in advance because first you got to come up with the deal points on whatever the agreement is. Is there a need? Does council want us to go this direction? Do I know that council wants us to go this direction? Because you never want to put something in front of council and go through all this work without having a concept of, are they going to be on board? Mm-hmm. So usually we'll know just because of planning into our 2025 plan of what council's interested in. So staff will start negotiating that 2 weeks or 2 months prior. There's back and forth with our city attorney and getting all the documents finalized, finally execution, forms that the state requires us to get for compliance, and we get all that. And then we put it on an agenda. Well, that requires, first it gets put on an agenda, then I do a review, I have handwritten edits on everything. We then meet as a full staff. We do another round of reviews, and it's kind of brutal. I've heard directors say it's just so brutal because it's just, everyone will start trying to find any weak points they can in your memo and your backup. We look at all the attachments on it, and then we finalize that. We send it out to the directors. They make changes. It comes back to me. I review one more time. We finally send it out to the public and to council.
What a process.
It's a process. So, but I will say the good news is that we don't ever want to take for granted that council trusts us. Mm-hmm. And I think things are smooth between council and with staff because there is so much trust between both groups. And so we're going to overdo review because we want to make sure every fact we give them is accurate, that we can anticipate what questions they're going to ask. And then the good news is the public gets access to all of that as well. We're very about transparency. So,
and we have an exceptional city council with exceptional people. And I know you're all close. You're all like a family, well, except for Mayor TJ. I mean, other than Mayor, no, he's a great mayor.
Right.
But don't you love him?
I do. I love TJ. TJ and I are close.
I know you are.
We have a good working relationship, and he has skills that I don't have, and I'm not going to say I don't have skills that he doesn't have because I work for him, but we definitely are, we see things very similarly. We're both driven by the 2025 plan, and so we're pretty much lockstep together. So. Well,
he's an exceptional mayor. He's like you. I mean, it's more about the community and the quality of life of our community than it is about politics.
That's the interesting thing that we have in our community that other communities don't necessarily have, is that a lot of people get into politics for ego.
Yes.
And I don't feel like our council members are in that for ego. I mean, they're public servants. They're there to make a change or a difference, or to just be representing people. I mean, they care about this community, and there's really not an ego involved in it.
No, it's evident that they do. It's evident that they do it as far as the events that they take part in, talking to them. A lot of them come into the restaurant. We sit down and have a conversation. But one of the things that I appreciate most about our city management is the care and the concern that our city council, our mayor, you as a city manager, and so many other folks over at City Hall, the care and concern that you have for not only enjoying the quality of life that we have here, but trying to make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the one thing that you love most about your job?
I think, well, I would say the level of influence is great. So the ability to make change when change needs to be had and figure out where resources need to be put where, that's important. But it's the people, ultimately, at the end of the day, community, this sense of being connected to something bigger than myself, and that I've got a future that I'm building for this community. That's awesome.
What are the challenges that you face?
The challenges right now are, I think it's dealing with a couple things. One is the staffing levels. So right now in Texas, for construction jobs, just as an example, out of 10 jobs, there are only 6 workers in Texas.
Oh.
That's shocking
Wow,
when I
wow.
heard that statistic. And it's why it's so costly to build right now. Part of it, some of it's supply chain issues and things like that, and inflation. But we've literally had people working on street projects, and a contractor will come up in a truck and say, "Hey, I'm going to give all of you workers an extra $2 an hour," and they have abandoned public jobs. And so then we have to wait for that contractor to find another crew to go out there. It's a very weird economic environment we're dealing with now. And then I think the other part of it is that people have a lot of anti-government sentiment right now. And we get rolled up into a lot of the national politics. And let me tell you, there are effects of national politics that affect us. I mean, we, after George Floyd and all of the issues with that, travesty, horrible, and we need to hold people responsible. We also have police that, we're down 17 police officers right now. We have difficulty hiring and attracting police officers. This new generation don't want to be police officers because they're no longer seen in the public eye as heroes. When in the reality is they're the ones out there every day putting their lives on the line, right, for the people's safety in our community. So it's when you're managing a group of public servants, and we're all getting rolled up into this negative anti-government sentiment, it's hard to attract people. And you're seeing the private industries are rebounding faster with regard to hiring folks, and that you'll see all government entities are suffering still at the end, and that prevents us from being able to provide the greatest service that we could possibly provide.
Sure. Let's talk about the revitalization of Old Town.
Sure.
By the way, I love it.
Me too.
I love it. I mean, with so much construction going on, and apartments and new businesses coming in, it has brought life into a situation that didn't have a lot of life left. What do you see as the end goal?
The end goal is to have a vibrant and authentic Old Town. So that's walkable, where people want to not just live, but work and play. So the really cool part about Old Town is that we're not just creating an Old Town from scratch. It's here. And so I think that
in what way? When you say it's here,
it's here. Like we've got an Old Town, so we're building onto the bones that were already here.
All right.
We've got some gritty parts of Old Town. We've got things that don't necessarily look like they're downtown Plano or Legacy, right? But it is more complex to revitalize an area than to just build from scratch onto greenfield. But at the same time, at the end of the day, you're going to have a much more authentic place where people, it just feels true. And that's something that's so, when people describe Old Town Lewisville, you think Mayberry, right? And it's amazing. The business owners all know each other. They talk to one another. They try to help each other. The city's right there. People can walk straight into my office and come talk to me. Businesses talk to me. We talk all the time. So it's a different environment than most cities, and I love that. So that's really what we're trying to capitalize on, is building upon that.
It's funny that you call it a Mayberry, because on a different show I had an Old Town business owner, and that's exactly what she called it. It's a Mayberry type atmosphere. Are you pleased with the revitalization program going?
Oh yeah. I mean, the history of revitalization in Old Town. You know, Old Town was the center, the core of our city. And then the stories were that the Lewisville High School decided to relocate on the west side of town. At that point, it was all fields over there. And so people were like, this is kind of crazy that we're putting more infrastructure out there. Well, then all of this area over there starts taking off. People are in the 80s and 90s are building homes over there. That's where a lot of our boom was. And it really left behind, the City Hall was over there. It left behind Old Town. So in 2003, early 2000s, the council decided we need to reinvest in our Old Town. So they decided to put City Hall down in Old Town, Texas. At that point, we had employees that were so nervous to work in Old Town because they were certain they were going to get carjacked on the way to their car, because the crime was so, at least the perception at that point was the crime was an issue down here, that people, you didn't have eyes on the street, you didn't have people that were walking around living down here. And so the council did that. Then we bought out all the property that was where Wayne Ferguson Plaza was, and there was lots of businesses that relocated at that point, and we turned that into a beautiful park. All the buildings along Main Street, we've given facade grants to help those folks as they went along. So I could show you pictures from before, and it doesn't look nearly as nice as what it looks like now.
Well, it wasn't so long ago that Old Town was just dead.
Yeah.
Boarded up. A lot of businesses boarded up, and now there's life down here. And I'm so excited about the apartments being built, the population coming in, and inventing a walk-around community where people go to work and they come here, and then they're able to walk to get whatever they need. Yeah.
The short-term strategy for us right now is you need more heads in beds. So you've got retail that's, like you said, they're not boarded up, but retail really it's just on the cusp of being able to be like, gangbusters, but you need people down here to be able to support those businesses. And so that's what we have a lot of, we have some multifamily with some retail design put on the bottom that's going to be down by the train station. We've got one already built. We've got one right next door to you. We've got one on the corner of Main and Mill with retail on the bottom. All of these heads and beds with higher income levels are going to support the retail. And then it's just, that's our intent, is to snowball. And I think, next steps may also be, trying to focus on some of the single family. We've got some beautiful single family homes around here. But how can we see those renovated and get, next generations to come in here that want to live in a walkable environment, that type of thing.
Claire, when you have controversy, internal controversy, how do you deal with it as a city manager?
So, I don't know what you mean by controversy, but let's say conflict.
Conflicts, yeah.
So, conflict is healthy, personally, I think. So, when you have internal conflict, you should be willing to have those hard conversations. So part of it comes from having a culture where you trust people. So you can have conflict as long as you trust both sides, that we're all trying to go to the same goal, or trying to, maybe not the same goal, but we all have the best of intentions. And then conflict should be, once you trust people, you have to hold people accountable. And it's not just me holding people accountable, two people at the same level. If you're not pulling your weight, you should be willing to tell someone you're not pulling your weight, and be able to be emotionally intelligent enough to have those conversations. So conflict I don't see as bad. I do think the first thing anyone should do, including myself, is listen. I think too many people talk first before listening and understanding. So, we did this program after George Floyd, where we had members of our Black community come in and give input with regard to kind of what was going on in their lives and in our community. And the process was called Listen, Learn, Lead. But actually, everything we do should be listen, learn, lead. We should listen to people first, learn from them, and teach each other, and then make a decision once you're fully informed on leading.
So many times, people are listening, but they're thinking about what they want to say more than they hear what's being said.
Right.
Claire, what would you say if you're talking to a corporation that's out of city, out of state, that's wanting to move to the Metroplex, to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex? How would you entice them to move to Lewisville?
Well, first, the first selling point for Lewisville, Texas is location. We are incredibly close to the airport. We are incredibly great access to roads. And that's really one of the first sellings. So you have corporations coming in here, they're looking at that. We have one of the lowest tax rates in the Metroplex as well. So even if we don't offer you incentives, you're getting a better deal coming to Lewisville than you're coming to other places. So like we already have a built-in incentive. And then we also provide the best, we've been shown by a study that Carrollton does, they figure out who provides the best value for your tax dollars, and they compare like what the costs are for all types of taxes and fees, and then what services are provided. And this isn't coming from me, this is coming from Carrollton. Lewisville is the best value for your buck. So I would say that. And then the other part is we've got great companies that are here that can connect together. I mean, that's the ideal thing, is that you have two companies that can kind of leverage off of one another. And then great schools, because when you relocate, people don't want to relocate if they don't have great schools. So we've got great schools, we've got great community and all those types of things. So it's that, standard of living and what, we have a safe community, we have great schools and those types of things. So I think we're the full package.
You have how many kids?
I have two.
You have two kids.
Yes, they're bonus kids. They're the youngest one came to me at 9, and the oldest one came to me at 15. Now they're 22 and 16.
So do they both live at home?
No, the older one is off living her life. She's now an engineer, and she's got her first job, and that's
awesome.
great. And the 16-year-old lives at home. Actually, she just got a job working at the Perk down the street.
Oh, I read that.
Yeah.
I read that.
Yeah.
Oh, bless her heart.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Claire, I sure appreciate you coming on the show. You're such an asset to our city. You're an asset to our city hall. And I wish you the greatest success. I enjoy your friendship and all the things that you do, all the sacrifices that you make so that we can live a good life in Lewisville. Thank you for coming.
Well, I appreciate you.
Terry, take us out, buddy.